Hi everyone, this is Global Node.js Summit. Welcome back. And now we are going to start our Q&A session with our speakers. I'm gonna have Armando here with me as a moderator. Hi Armando, how are you?
I'm doing just great, mate. How about you? How are you
Very
doing?
well, thanks. Thanks. It's so exciting to see how people all over the globe are now connecting using just the simple devices, nothing even special like studios and so on. We still get connected to the conferences, so that's great. Right. We're gonna have right now Sebastian, Nairi, and Colin, and you'll have the possibility to work with the questions from the chat and so on. Oh, how do you feel about it, Armando?
I feel great. This is my first time actually moderating a conference, and even more than that, like a virtual conference. So I'm a bit nervous, I must say, but it's very fun. I can tell you that. So yeah, let's see what people have to ask these folks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we are connecting our speakers just in a few minutes. Be ready for that. Meanwhile, we would like to remind you that our main sponsor is Salesforce Heroku. Thanks for them. Also, we by the way, after this conference, we're gonna release the videos. It will take some time for us just to to clean them up and render and so on to get prepared. We also would like to translate the videos into different languages to have at least some subtitles. So we'll be really happy if someone can assist us to translate that to the local languages. Please go ahead, send us emails, messages, whatever. We'll be happy to get this help. Also, we are looking for the local community partners and event partners. Contact us, please. Hey, welcome to the stream. How are you guys? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, very well. I'm still excited. Still not even tired so much, so I'm full of energy for the rest of the day. Okay, Armando, go ahead. You can handle now the session.
Okay, great. Well, we're going for the Q&A session right now, right? So there's a thing first. Because you need some of your help, we cannot see the Q&A questions.
Yeah, look, I guess we need a few minutes just for our attendees to warm up. Oh, great! We've got the first one. What's atomic in worker thread? What's its purpose? All right.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a question for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. So atomic is a module in JavaScript to work when you work with the shared memory and shared array buffers. Okay. And that gives you the ability to do some atomic operations. Like if you want to put some value on shared array buffer and to put it in an atomic way, so you can use this module. And of course, the main idea here is to avoid race conditions and synchronizations problems between different threads trying to access the same data or working with the same data at the same time.
Okay, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, me too.
Well, the next question we have now. Yeah, that's a nice question from Sorib. Like, do all ETL tools used for real-time, maybe initial mainframe API calls, do they all use Node.js and with worker threads? Would you know how to answer this question?
Sorry, what's the question?
Do all ETL tools used for real-time A/B testing, mainframe API calls, do they all use Node.js and with worker threads? I don't believe so, but yeah.
The question is if we use worker threads for real time, or
yeah, like if you real-time applications, ETL tools, like if they use like if you would see any benefit of using worker threads.
Yes, I mean I haven't used it for that, but I mean if you have a server and you have some CPU intensive operation, then of course you can use the worker threads for that. I mean I don't see any reason to not use them.
Okay, interesting. There's another question from Santiago Silva Cartagena, where he says he asks you how do you deal with race conditions when using a worker pool? For example, processing messages from a queue or updating an object asynchronously.
Again, it depends on how the worker pool is implemented, and I guess that there should be already some packages on the NPM that already implemented worker pool. So I suggest you to go and try to search for one of those packages instead of just starting to implement it from zero, because I'm pretty sure that someone else already did it. But again, it depends on the implementation. It's I don't see any issues if you access to that worker pool from the same place. So I don't think you will have some synchronization issues. But
okay, cool. Thank you very much. I got a question for Nairi. In the last seconds of your presentation, you showed us a threads monitor for Node. Rudik Pinheiro is very curious to know which tool was that.
Which tool was that?
Yeah.
It's activity monitor tool for macOS.
Okay. Could you send him the link of the tool in the chat if possible? I feel like he would appreciate it very much. Yeah, thank you. We have another question for Colin. A lot of questions on the WebAssembly. So some people are asking, for example, how can WASI help? What's this use case or some example use cases you can give to these people?
So there's a few use cases. One is if you have an existing code base that you're interested in migrating or running on the web, you can compile and target WebAssembly instead of having to rewrite your entire application in JavaScript. So that can save substantial time. The other thing is for performance reasons. So if you're trying to do something in JavaScript that just isn't quite fast enough, sometimes you can kind of turn the performance up a notch by rewriting in WebAssembly. That saves you the headache of having to go full-blown writing something in native like C.
Okay, so basically it's compiling it back to WebAssembly is a better way than actually just writing it in native code. It's better to just get a compiled version in WebAssembly than actually trying to create node bindings for a specific native language.
Yeah, so Node supports compiled add-ons, but if you've ever tried to do anything substantial with them, even with the latest NAPI APIs, it's not a great experience. So WebAssembly, especially for people who might not be familiar with the lower level tool chains, is a really nice alternative.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that answered the question. We have another question for Nairi, which sounds interesting. It's from Justine. How does the process of JavaScript hoisting apply to the event loop?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
How does the process of JavaScript hoisting applies to the event loop?
Actually, it's done by V8 engine, if I understood the question correctly, because it's part of V8 engine execution part. So libuv does only asynchronous stuff related to operation system.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Let me check another ones. Yeah, there's a next question for Colin. What's your perspective on the argument that WebAssembly is the GS killer? Do you see that happening, or do you think the cooperation between the two will make the JavaScript ecosystem even stronger?
I think it'll make it stronger. I don't think JavaScript is going anywhere anytime soon. Especially for anything related to the front end, like even if you use WebAssembly, you're probably still going to have JavaScript glue code there. WebAssembly really opens up web development to a different class of developers. So maybe people who aren't familiar with web development.
That's great. Thank you very much. We have another question for you as well. This one is from Anton Ulyanov. Does WebAssembly ecosystem is mature enough to be used in production for real applications, or right now is it still like an experimental play tool? Like, and how long will we need to wait until it becomes like mature and ready to use in production?
Oh, it's definitely production ready now. There are large websites, I believe Google Earth is in WebAssembly, but there are companies, Fastly is doing a lot of WebAssembly stuff, Intel, Mozilla. So like there are big companies heavily invested in it and using it in production. So it's definitely something that can be used now. WASI is a little less mature, but I know that there are still people using it in production. I mean, it's over a year old now. I hope that answers the question. I would feel comfortable using it.
Yeah. I feel like another company that's interesting to put there is it's Figma, right? As far as I'm concerned, Figma also has their entire like graphics engine also in WebAssembly, and they have like a very nice tech blog post about this. So I feel like that was a great answer. Thank you so much. Let's see what else we have. Okay, this one's for Sebastian. Using Worker threads for compression tasks like image or video compression would be a good idea.
Yes, of course. I mean, that's the intention of using Worker threads. You do some CPU intensive tasks. So otherwise, you will need you would do it maybe in a child process or in a different way, or using the cluster model. But again, Worker thread is for that to do the intensive operations. Of course, as I said in my presentation, you shouldn't use it for parallelizing the I/O operations, because that's what the event loop does. Okay. But other than that, and if it is a CPU intensive task, then go for it.
Thank you so much. Let's see what else we have here. We're very engaged. Like your talks like inspired a lot of people. They have a lot of questions. Like, thank you all for this. Okay, there's another question to Sebastian. What are one of your best libraries or tools when you're working with multiple threads?
What does it mean? I mean, tools, tool,
libraries, NPM modules, things that would help, like using threads.
I mean, this module it's pretty new. I mean, it was introduced in Node 10 and it became only stable recently in Node 12. So I don't think there are a lot of modules around the worker threads. I saw a couple of them to create their own worker pools. Other than that, I don't recall to see any other package related to that.
Okay, thank you so much. We have another one for Nairi. Do you think that kind of prioritization of tests is good, or what if a single queue run in parallel?
I guess that's the difference of Node.js between other language, between other runtimes and other languages which support threads. Because using this way, this event loop way, Node.js can handle the request much faster than some other tools with threads or some other languages. For parallelism, I guess you can just increase your worker, your thread pool size in case if you have CPU intensive work or blocking by operations. But about that, I didn't able to talk much. My time was over.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm waiting just a bit more to see more questions coming. Yeah, there's a question from Gabriel Quirino for Colin. Does WASI have an implementation with Electron? And if so, how can it be useful for desktop applications?
I'm sorry, does it have what?
If it does, WASI have an implementation with Electron? If it's Electron compatible or something like that for desktop applications?
So I don't think it's come out in a stable release yet. I looked up a little bit. I'm not super familiar with the Electron release cycle, but it looks like it'll come out in Electron 10, which I think is having like preview releases, but not stable yet. And I know one of the Electron maintainers who also works on Node has sent some pull requests to UV-WASI to kind of help the integration there. So I know that it's in the works. I can't come up with any use cases in a desktop application setting right off the top of my head. I feel like you've got a lot of stuff going on inside of an Electron process between Node and Chromium and everything. So I'm not sure if WASI would be a huge fit there. But yes, it is going to be inside of Electron.
Yeah, I can guess that considering the amount of IPC that happens inside of an Electron application, it might give some overhead. Thank you very much for your answer. Let me see what else. Sebastian, Ankit Verma has a question in which he questions if worker threads are useful in a single core system.
In a single what?
In a single core system.
Oh, I think so. I'm not pretty sure about it. I actually don't know. I mean, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, that's totally okay. Yeah. Thanks for the honesty. It's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about at least for me, what I see like on senior developers, when we don't know something, we just say that we don't know. Yeah. It's the best thing you can do. Let's see what else. So there's a question from Douglas. I don't know which one of you he's targeting this question, but let's see. If I need a background worker in my web server that executes each X minutes, even if it is not CPU intensive, should I use workers or just a set timeout?
I mean, set timeout, it's fine because it's asynchronous. So it will work well with the event loop. It won't block the event loop. So that's just fine to use set timeout.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, John has a suggestion for us, about sending each of you the written questions instead. How would you feel about it? We still have.
Of course. I mean, sure.
Sure. Cool. Let's try like this and see what happens. There's this question from Colin. I'm just pasting this on here.
So the question is, how are Webpacks useful for a JavaScript enterprise application to make separate chassis like modules? I'm not entirely sure I understand what the question is, but Webpack is useful in general because it can do a lot of things, especially related to front-end code or even serverless code, as far as eliminating a lot of dead code, doing things like tree shaking and other optimizations, minifying, reducing the number of bytes that you're sending over the wire. In the case of serverless, reducing cold startup times. But I don't really understand the enterprise applications and separate chassis like modules. question.
Yeah, I think that was also a bit like a bit blurry there. If the question can make it a bit more explicit, maybe we can work around a better answer for this. There's another question here from Arthur to Nairi. I'm going to copy paste this one too. What are your thoughts about this question?
Yeah. Should I read this question?
I can read it for you. I think it's better. So the question is basically that it's questioning Nairi if he thinks that set immediate is useless or if it has some good use cases for solving specific problems.
Actually, yeah, it's useful because sometimes you have synchronous JavaScript code which should be executed, but it's not something important. But like there are something else which may work at first than that one. So you can use set immediate to schedule that execution at the end when the important stuff is finished. I mean, let's imagine you have 2 while loops, right? You can put one inside set immediate and you can reschedule it and it will be executed after the first one. Or you can think about something else. But it's helpful mostly for the synchronous stuff when you want to reschedule your synchronous function at the end of V8 engine execution.
Okay. Let me see. We have another question for Sebastian. I think I'm going to read this one. What is the difference between worker threads and a node cluster which works on the number of CPU threads? Does involving both would be effective?
Sorry, you were cut. So the difference between worker threads and
node cluster, which works on the number of CPU threads.
Yeah, but node cluster, you are basically creating like different processes for your application. Okay, so it has also some overhead because the operating system needs to allocate resources for that process. You need to maybe to have some kind of to manage those different processes. So if one goes down, and you might need to bring it up again. And of course, you have the disadvantage that if you need to send data between the processes, then the data will be cloned. And with worker threads, you are running under the same process, and you have the possibility to use shared array buffers to share that data between the different threads.
Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I think this one's from Nairi, and what the polling phase does in the event loop.
That's the polling phase wasn't included in my talk. Actually, there was a slide that I hide that because I know that I can talk about that because it will take much time. So basically, it does work with Apple IQ, if you remember that from my slide. So you can check the last page of my slide. I will send the URL. The polling basically works with them and does the non-blocking work. To be sure, but I will send the link so you can check in my slide.
Okay. Okay, we still have like 5 minutes for our Q&A session. There's a question from me where we can find the slides for all the 3 presentations. Yeah, thank you, Nairi, for sharing yours already. So if Colin and Sebastian can also share like their slides there, I think it would be nice. But I believe at the end of this, we will also like share all the content like somewhere else. So yeah, just stay tuned on that. Let's see another question here. There's a question from Suraj. Should we use multiple threads for a complex function call, or should we use a single thread for handling it, like accessing data from MongoDB? Which one would be faster?
Again, if you are doing asynchronous I/O, like accessing some database or Mongo, so don't use worker threads for that. I mean, you have the event loop, you have the libuv. That's the intention of libuv. It does it very well. It works directly with the operating system, and you can just there is no need to have a different worker thread for that. So you can just use the same thread that you have with the event loop.
Okay. Let's see those. Okay, we still have 3 minutes to Q&A. Anyone has any questions? This is your time to throw them on the channel. So Dipanshu has a question to Nairi if he can use multiple set timeouts in different scopes, let's say in multiple different objects. If so, do I need to follow any kind of precautions?
Yeah, you can, but there's nothing to worry about because Node.js handles that very well.
Okay. There's a question from Rafaela. Where do you use the worker threads? I think we answered this one previously, but if you can just go again over it.
Yeah, again, basically, if you have some CPU intensive tasks, and maybe if you have some machine learning computation that you need to do, or some crypto which is synchronous operations, everything again that it can be a heavy task, then you should do it on a worker thread, or you can do it on a worker thread. Okay. I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe a good example is machine learning, because usually you have like some algorithms to run and some calculations that you need to do. So that's a good example to use that in a worker thread.
Okay, let's go for the last question from Nairi. What do you suggest to use one over the other? Set timeout versus set immediate? I feel like it's a big question.
Actually, it depends, but just to answer your question, I prefer set immediate because it works at the end of the phases. Maybe something that, from my point of view, you can have something important in your set timeout queue, and that's good to handle that kind of stuff by set immediate. I guess probably that's why they have created that, in my point of view.
Okay, this was lovely. Well, we reached the end of our Q&A session for this first set of talks. Thank you very much. I would like the chat to give like a huge thanks for our speakers, because they did such an amazing work here. And thank you all very much for being here, like answering all these questions. I'm pretty sure the community really appreciates that. And yeah, hope you all are safe and have a nice day with it, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Armando, for an amazing, really amazing moderation. How do you feel now about this experience of the first moderation on the online conference?
I am still quite the heart is pumping fast. I'm still a bit nervous, but I'm trying to just go over it, Yeah, so it's been pretty nice so far.
Yeah, Armando, by the way, tell us a quick story about yourself. Like, I know that you are working at Netflix, and just tell a few words about who you are and what you're doing and so on.
Yeah, well, basically, my name is Armando Magalhães. I am a Brazilian software engineer living in Amsterdam for the last 2.5 years already. I've worked across multiple industries, like for entertainment, design, travel industry, and other industries as well. And yeah, I've been in Netflix for the last 4 months only. I'm working mainly as a solution developer. So yeah, things have been getting pretty interesting lately.
That's great. So what can I say? Parabéns and obrigado.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We have 8 minutes before the next section starts. You can go now and have some free time. As usual, we would like to thank our sponsors from Salesforce, Heroku. Keep in mind that we are gonna record these videos and we will share them to those who have purchased them. You can still have a possibility to purchase the videos for this stream if you didn't yet. Also, we would like to announce that we are looking for translators to the local languages. Whoever is able to help with that, that would be just amazing. More people will just get this knowledge, and that would be great. We are announcing a few more events in the future. So there's going to be a Java Summit. We are releasing now some blind tickets, so you can just purchase them immediately, and then you'll know what would be the next event. We are looking for some speakers and moderators. So if you are brave enough to do that, you can go ahead and try, like Armando tried it, and he looks to be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Geekle Node.js Global Summit. Thank you. Stay connected, and we will see you just in a few minutes.
Bye.
Cheers.